Hmm? Yeah, something came up. No. Yeah, it's come, but there's no volume.
No, no.
I think you guys are. Just hello. Uh, hello. Everybody's become a sound engineer. Giving their own opinion. Great. Just like everybody becomes a doctor in the morning, I mean, when somebody gets sick.
No, no.
Tomorrow morning you should have ginger with this and you will feel fine, and then somebody else will come, no, just make sure you have hot water and with this, and somebody will say, no, take these 2 tablets, and oh god, it's the same thing happening for the sound engineer also. Someone is coming from as of today stands at 4,915. I would also like to inform you that the testing also has been maximum this month, close to touching 50,000 tests, today being the 17th of May. Last month, in the whole month of April, we touched. We expect that this month of May, we should be touching a total testing of 70 plus thousand, maybe touching 80,000 tests. But in the last 1 month, after a lot of work that has been done by the officials, the health department, and the government together, we have been able to expand our oxygen supported beds from 350 to 750 today. And we are hopeful to expand that to 1,000 oxygen supported beds in the next 2 weeks. When we started off with the second wave, we had approximately 700 cylinders. Today we have doubled it and we are close to touching 1,500 oxygen cylinders. And we hope to increase many more in the coming days and weeks. I will be informing you about those. We had Civil Hospital, Nazareth and Negrams having storage or oxygen plants or generators. But within the next few hours and in the next few days, we should be upgrading services in Civil Hospital Shillong and in Ganesh Das Hospital, as well as in RP Chest Hospital. So we'll be having oxygen plants in these three hospitals very, very soon. Upgradation is as we speak. Also, within the next few days, max, we will also see oxygen plants in Tura, Jowai, and Nongpo Civil Hospital also be completed. After that, in about 2 weeks' time, to also complete the oxygen plants in Nongstoin, Williamnagar, Bakmara, and Ampati. I would also like to inform you that government has to start some form of corona isolation would like to use in different cluster-based units in different parts of the city. And this is anticipating require more beds. We are trying to increase the presence at the locality level. In certain cases, full medical attention or full hospital services could also be supported through these different centers that will start at the community level. And this will be supported by the government. Basic manpower, supporting them with oxygen concentrators so that those patients, as I mentioned, who don't need full medical service of a hospital can all and given the basic support in these locations. All such beds will be created in the next few days in different parts of the city with the help of the community. And at the same time, we are also working very aggressively. We have already almost completed the beds in 300 beds in IIM. And this is the old campus. And the Mati, about 100. And third one, and NIFT, also 100. We are also looking at supporting these centers with oxygen concentrators so that in case there are patients who require basic support, given oxygen through these centers also. So these were the updates. Specific questions that you would like to ask, I'll be happy to answer. Nothing? Can we finish the health services first, then we can the
So
officials
we're
can
getting,
leave. So we have the health questions, and I'll take the other questions later. Yeah.
So we want your reaction regarding the by the opposition MLAs asking the government to declare COVID hospital. So your thought on that?
We already have done that, and In fact, now we're coming out of lockdown. So therefore, we're always open to criticism. But I would like to inform the state also and the opposition also that government has already taken steps for that. And apart from civil hospital, now the TB hospital in Shillong, Sauli will also become a full-fledged hospital. At the same time, we also have received a work order to set up 100-bedded facility for COVID, specifically COVID, with all the facilities in it. So therefore, many steps have already been taken. I can also inform you that the Honorable Speaker has called a meeting of all the MPs on Wednesday at 2:30, where we will be presenting all these members of the opposition as well as other political parties. So we have already taken steps in those lines.
Sir, last week, sir,
Yeah.
you said that if we get around 5,000 cases, it will be tough for us. And now we are very close to 5,000. So what are the immediate plans from the government side?
Yeah. So you're right. We had mentioned about this and had anticipated that we could see a scenario where we would touch 5,000. And that's the reason why, even before that, we realized that the momentum of the virus is so strong that we need to take decisions way in advance. That's why, even though we were not able to touch 5,000, we took the decision to isolate East Khasi Hills and put very strong restrictions in many districts. In spite of that, we still reached this position. So if we had not done what we did 2 weeks back, it would have been much more complicated than what we have. At the same time, because we anticipated that the way the things were moving seamlessly across the country, we realized that we would need more manpower, more hospital beds, we'd need more oxygen, and therefore we started the entire preparation process which you're talking about. And so that started almost 2 weeks, 3 weeks back, and that's why these restrictions were in place. But yet we were not able to slow down the spread of the virus. So there are many factors for that, and we need to realize government will put restrictions, but even at individual level, we need to ensure that we follow our protocols even at home. And that's the reason why this whole week, you're already aware, we'll be coming out with very strong sensitization program and a significant media campaign on how we should have our behavioral change in order to ensure that we contain this. So yes, you're right. We have looked at this 5,000 number and we prepared for this in that line. But it's very important to realize that if the numbers keep growing, no matter how many hospitals, beds, or oxygen cylinders we get, we will not be able to contain this. So therefore, the containment is the most important strategy. Rather, we should say this is not even containment is a very is the only precaution, I should say, that we can take. We need to be very careful and ensure that we maintain restrictions that we have right now, and hopefully we'll see that in days to come that the numbers will start to decline, and hopefully very shortly we should be able to see numbers going down, but it's difficult to say right now. I cannot predict anything, but we can hope that will happen, and for that we need the cooperation of the people and the society at large.
Compared to the last year, we see a lot of movement of vehicles, a lot of people coming out. Police personnel are not ready to check.
No, people have been cooperating. We have seen restrictions to a large level. But yes, you're right. We need to have more compliance from the public point of view. So this issue was discussed that certain market areas were getting crowded. So instructions have been given to the DC to close those areas and those markets down completely. And if the norms are not being followed, we are going very aggressively and closing those those areas down. And now, as I said, this is not a fight that the government will do on its own. Yes, we will play a role, but the discipline from the society is very, very important. We have been understanding that people need the basics. People need, to get their food and everything. So we've given a bit of relaxation in, but seeing that people are not adhering to the protocols, we are closing those sections down. So yes, we have seen this kind of a trend, but by and large, compliant. But there have been different cases of areas and markets where people did not follow the protocol, and we are taking stern action and closing those sections down. That's not true at all. In fact, the vaccines for the 45 plus are available in all the districts, and the vaccination is going on. Here's numbers. Anyway, so you want to say something? Hmm. Yeah. Okay, so that's a good number. He said that 80% centers are still for 45. Um, so therefore, the vaccination program is going on as planned. Of course, there is a large shortage in the supply of the vaccination, and that is what is causing a bit of inconvenience for the people. But we are trying to manage with whatever quota that we are hopeful that, as we all have been reading in the press and the news, that we are hopeful that in the coming weeks the production will go up. We have seen that India would be able to touch close to 15 crore of vaccines uh, per month, sorry, in by say July, August. So if those kind of numbers touch in and slowly the numbers go up, then we should be able to see the vaccination program improve. So we are waiting for the supplies, but the shortage is huge. We have only received, sorry. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we have only received 42,000 shots for the 18 plus category. We need 30 lakh for the 18 plus category. So we need 10.5 lakh shots for the 18 plus category, 18 to 45. That the NHM director, they will accordingly plan. It is with me, but I'm sure that the information will be given out in public very soon.
So how far this is true, like encouraging home isolation of positive patients, COVID patients who are asymptomatic, uh, is the cause that led to this spike in case.
You see, home isolation has got its own plus and own minuses. The plus point is that obviously person is at the comfort of the home, the asymptomatic, the inconvenience is not there. We have to understand when a person has to stay for 10, 14 days in isolation in a new location, it does become emotionally very, very stressful for the individual. So therefore, in the first half, we saw people, first half, I mean to say last year in the first, we saw people more here. A lot of people did not go to home and they went for the isolation centers given by the government. But this year, we saw a lot of people going for home, encouraging home isolation because there's a obviously logistical challenges are there when we have large quarantine centers and isolation centers. So it does make a lot of sense even from a logistics point of view. But yes, the point that are broken at house, if the individuals who are positive don't contain themselves in the room that they're meant to be and still mix around with the rest of the family members, then obviously the virus will spread. And that's the reason why we are stressing this whole week on a very stress on this entire program of ensuring that protocols are followed even when you're in the house. So you need to wear the mask, and especially people who are positive, they need to ensure that they don't. Same time, we also realize that there are a lot of places individuals who don't have the extra room to spare, and that's the reason why last week we decided that government community centers, if they come up, and that will be decided videos and the DCs which area requires, along with the headmen and the local leaders. on which areas should have these community centers. So that's the kind of a double kind of prong strategy we have gone ahead with this. But yes, what you're saying has got a lot of points in it, in the sense that protocols are not followed at home, and if the people take it easy, they're home, so they're relaxed, and they mix with everybody. That's what's leading to the spread. Even when the cases come out, we find is turning out to be positive. So
So,
clearly,
sir,
that's an
so,
indication.
sir, is the government considering to segregate these uh, COVID patients from, like stop this home isolation and
No, that's what I've
segregate them?
mentioned to you. I've already replied that. Point is that if the individuals have the space in that, then it makes logical sense from all angles stay in the house. But when you're in the house, you need to ensure that you isolate yourself. You can't mix with everybody. But then there are cases where people don't have the additional rooms, and economically face those problems. Support community centers wherever the community is willing to give the space. Government will give some kind of a financial support, and the BDO and the DC will decide on which centers are to be supported and to be opened up, and based on that we will support from the government side. So we're going for both strategies. Yes, we have picture with me right now, but in all these centers which I just mentioned to you, for example, Jowai and Nongpo and Tura, the oxygen plants are going to be set up in the next 1 week. They have enough beds. Enough means there's never enough, but we will be enhancing the number of beds out there, which will be supported by oxygen. So close to about 40 exactly, depending on the size of the plant, which I don't have details with me right now, but anything between 50 beds in every district, the major districts will have oxygen supported beds. This is a high flow oxygen I'm talking about. And in places like Tura, we have already sanctioned and given 100 bedded COVID facility, which will also have all 100 beds with oxygen. Obviously, we'll have to fill it up with cylinders and put it there. Similarly, in Jawai also, so similarly in Jawai and Nongpo, somewhere it will be civil hospital, somewhere we're going for the MCH, the Mother and Child Hospital. So depending on the locations, so you're right, we have realized this importance of ensuring that the rural infrastructure is also. Work for this has started almost about 2 weeks back, and the work as we speak, we're hopeful that 3, 4 locations I mentioned just now, they will be the oxygen plants will be up in about a week's time, and then the other 3, 4 locations 2 weeks time. So almost will have some form of oxygen supported beds to ensure that if there's any kind of district situation, then at least basic facilities are there for the people. It's not a hospital, it's a facility. It's a COVID. This will be ready by July. As I said, the work order has already been given. The locations are already being prepared. And these are prefab structures. These are boxes ready-made, and it right there. They have got systems in it. They have got ICU facility options in it. So each of these facilities will have 10% of the ICU beds in them. So this should be up in max 30 to 45 days is what we're looking at. That means by July. See, it's not something that that we have got a cycle or a formula for this. It's very difficult to predict. But seeing what's happening in the rest of the country today, the curve once the lockdown strict restrictions that come in, once people start following these restrictions, 3 to 4 5 weeks time, you see suddenly things do start flattening down. Now, will that apply to us? We don't know yet, but we're hopeful. And obviously, we have to also see that, as I said, it's not that the lockdown we have it today and tomorrow the numbers come down. It takes time for that trend to change. And more importantly, testing is very critical. So we are really pushing. I had a telephonic conversation with Dr. Harshvardhan yesterday, and I requested him that our state is population is not as large, so maybe a strategy of saturation of these locations which are easy to saturate, like the smaller states in northeast, could be one way to ensure that at least few circles and few states and regions become fully vaccinated. So I'm hopeful that we'll get a positive response for that. Even if we don't get a full vaccination, we're hopeful that we'll get more than what is being allotted to us right now. So I put in that request to the Honorable Minister. So vaccination is going to be a key part of our strategy. But while that happens, containment and really preventive process is the only way to really fight this. We need to carry on with our lives and make sure that we take the basic precautions. And if we do that, then most of the we will be able to see that the trends will. If you ask me for a date, it's not possible to give that. But we've seen that the trends do go down once the lockdown starts in about 4 to 5 weeks' time. So let's hope that we'll see some kind of a trend like that for us, for our state also.
Because you're looking after finance, I want to ask you how difficult it has been for the government to arrange resources for COVID expenditure, and what is the total COVID expenditure as of now? Because till September last year, it was around 399 crores.
Yes, the expenditure, of course, I don't have the breakup with me right now, but I'll be very happy to maybe come out with a separate press release giving you the exact number so that the clarity is there. So you can just make a note of that. You can tell finance to just prepare the details. So yes, the expenditure has crossed, of course, 400 crores, which you mentioned, but we are seeing that this time around the expenditures may not be as high as what we had last time. And the reason for that is that last time things were very chaotic, and there was no time to really decide or think whether it's the right or the wrong thing. We had to pay for people coming back, we had to pay for the people to stay, we had to pay for the doctors and the other people in the hospitals to stay in the hotels. We had to give money for laborers. We had to pay for different kind of entrepreneurship programs. So really, that point in time, the whole country, in fact, faced with a unforeseen kind of a situation, and that led us to really making sure that we don't leave any stone unturned. Now this year, seeing what we went through last year, I'm not saying it gives us a kind of a blueprint on what to do, not to do, but at least it gives us some kind of an idea of where we could manage things better, where we could reduce our cost. Does that mean that we compromise on the health of the people? Absolutely not. That's the reason why when we were put up the question of spending money for the vaccination, we said no question asked, 100 crores we will spend to get the vaccination. When it came to setting up, we said that no question asked, immediately go ahead and create the infrastructure. So we are in a better position to at least decide on where to spend in a much more better manner, where we could minimize our expenditure. I'm not saying cut costs is not the correct word, but minimize the expenditure and how to balance. Now, talking about resources, most of the resources are coming out from our own resource, from the taxes that we are getting from, the central government, which is the devolution of the taxes that we have and our own taxes which we have. So with that, we are managing the situation right now, and we need to see how the next few months go at a global and national level, how the economy is impacted, and based on that, we'll come to know how the overall situation of the state will be in terms of finances. So right now, we're managing with the resources that we have of our own. It's natural. There's no doubt about it that there will be a financial strain, not just for our state, country, the whole world will. The question is how we are able to manage things and utilize the funds in the best possible manner. And that's really what we're trying to do. And we also realize, as I said, that it's worth spending on certain investments and infrastructure, because that will reduce our burden in the coming months or days if the situation does not improve. We realize that it's important to support the private hospitals because government will do its part. But if private support hospitals, which are doing a tremendous job, and I must really congratulate them and thank them for the kind of continuous work they're doing and the dedication that they have shown, not just private hospitals, doctors and nurses and staff, even our government hospitals, they're really going through a lot of strain and stress. And we need to be with them and we need to really appreciate what they're doing. And decided that we'll support the in terms of their running expenditures if necessary for getting manpower or even to invest in some kind of investment in equipments the infrastructure. So it's like that. So we have to use the funds, whatever we have, in a much more judicious manner. That is not to reply to. No, center. Well, we have asked the vaccines for 45 plus. So that's of course has been a relief. The different kind of support in terms of the food grains that they give every now and then for the poorer section of society. Those things help. They have given, as I said last time, they've given support for the COVID. Initially, we thought we'll put it in one location, but then we realized that we can do it better by having a prefab distributing it. So we then stopped that plan and we went for prefab structure, which is faster to implement and cheaper to implement, more effective also, and we'll be able to spread it across at least 5, 6 districts. So the same money will be used in a much more judicious manner. As I said, using the so we got that amount of 7, 8 crore. One hospital in one location, we are now able to put up 5 facilities in 5 different districts. So it's going to be utilized in a much better manner. One can say anything on hindsight. It's very easy to sit down here today and look back and say, oh, why did we even stop it at all from March? So we should have continued from March. But I keep repeating this. It's not an easy decision to take. Please remember that livelihood versus overall health situation. Then that's the reason why when you see, we kept that as a benchmark in our mind that look, if this 5,000 touches, then we're looking, because I told you we had 300 beds, 50 beds in oxygen. Now we looked at approximately 7% people requiring bed. I'm talking about 3 weeks back. So when we did that calculation, we realized that if we have 5,000 people positive, these 350 beds will be full. So while this is happening, let's slow down the process of these positive cases coming in, bump up our investment to create the beds now from 350, and we're going to, and so obviously that 7% of that happens, then you can make your calculations as to. So it's like we're going with this graph moving ahead, and we're moving with the graph of the growth of the hospitals also. So therefore, we anticipated situation and realized that while we were below 1,000, we realized that there is that we will touch 5,000. And before we reached 1,000, we put the lockdown. And that's why it was done at that point in time. And we did it slightly watching the situation because we realized also that closing things down will affect the livelihood of the people. And somewhere we need to find the balance. We realized that the growth rate was moving in a line where by that will touch 5,000. Today is May 17th. So I don't know if you remember, I gave you these projections that time also. So we are, and instead of 12th of March, May, it's the 17th of May, we're touching 5,000. But if the trend continues, we will go beyond 1,000, maybe even 10,000, in a short time. So we need to continue to ramp up our beds and our oxygen plants and oxygen beds and restrictions in the way urge the citizens of our state to ensure that they follow the protocols so that we can, head with our vaccination program and hope that we get the sufficient stocks from central government. So we're looking at a tough situation for the next few weeks, but if the society and the state works together, we are sure that we'll be able to overcome this very difficult phase of maybe 2 to 3 weeks where we are seeing rise in cases, pressure on the healthcare system, shortage of the vaccination. So all these aspects are adding to a lot of pressure, but we hope that we will see things improve once this particular phase is over.
So, I have one query. Since lockdown has been almost 3 weeks now in Tura, Shillong, and Juwai. So a certain section of people were like a taxi driver who were completely stopped flying. So when the owner now, most of them they find it difficult in paying them. So will the government come up with any assistance to this people?
No decision taken right now on that aspect, because the issue that we face is that it's not one section of the community, society, but then it is impacting a lot of people. So if we do go into this, then we will have to consider many more professions also. So therefore, the economic impact it will have is huge. So we understand the challenges that they're facing, and that's the reason why when one of you asked me about closing things, locking things down, there's a reason why it's not the easiest decision to make. So I urge and I request everybody to bear with us. This is a tough time, but we all need to work together in this. And I'm hopeful that, as I said, we will come through uh, in, in the coming weeks. We'll see the situation improve. Sorry? Which part? The anti-COVID drug. Well, I'm not a medical expert on it, but of course, any kind of such inventions or whatever we call them that come in is something that's a positive thing for us. So I'm hopeful that it will work. I'm sure the DRDO is very, very efficient, and they must have done their homework and research and come out with this medication. But it's restricted use, only for emergency use. So only in hospitals it will be available, and only for patients who are in a serious situation. So therefore, let us see and hope that it comes out, that it has the desired impact. And if it does, then it will be a great blessing for not just the COVID patients, but society as a whole. As a whole.
I ask now.
Yeah.
Like, so despite the initiatives taken by this government, as you have enlightened us just now, but the one of your coalition partners, senior member of the one of DP, had come out in the newspaper stating that the MDA government has failed in this regard. So what do you have to say about this? And what is the way forward for the government to really tie this up?
I don't have any comments on the coalition partner. He has said his comments at his own personal level. But I would like to say here that this is not about failing or succeeding or who's doing things right or wrong. This is a situation where we all are in it, whether we like it or not. And condemn and look at every single act as being wrong and always finding a fault in every situation. Right now, we're not trying here to win a war or battle with each other. It's a battle we are fighting against an enemy that's common to all of us. So I would urge all the political leaders that this is not the time to be condemning or be finding faults in everything that is being done. Mistakes. I don't deny that, because there is really no perfect. Sometimes we go right, and the person who would be criticized and say, "Why did you go right? You should have gone left." So this is my point, and my appeal as Chief Minister is that this is not the time for blame game. This is not the time for false, but this is a time for positive, suggestions. And we are definitely open to positive suggestions. Just a few days back, I received a letter from some of the opposition MLAs, and they gave very good suggestions. And I'm happy to tell you that we have taken those suggestions in a positive manner, and most of those implemented. In fact, we'll be talking about that on Wednesday. So therefore, my appeal to not just the politicians, but even to this, to society at large, that let us avoid criticism at this point in time. This is not false. Please avoid propaganda on social media. It really, really is affecting the morale of doctors and frontline workers and officials who work without sleeping. Just few days back in some hospital, some of the patients complained that the oxygen system. I don't want to name the place, know the patients, but I'm giving example. And they started making it a big issue, only to find out later on that those patients they played around with the oxygen controller and increased the oxygen supply themselves without informing the person who is manning it. And then obviously the cylinder it is maintained with a certain speed and a certain thing for a certain number of hours. And then they said that there was not enough oxygen in that cylinder for them. Now these kind of things happen. I'm not trying to condemn or because they may have just felt that they need to increase attendant to do it. But my point is that false information. I would urge people not to just forward some kind of an exciting message they get just because it's exciting. Please verify if it's correct or not. So a lot of people have been giving false information about the vaccination, false information about beds. So it's not like that. In spite of the challenges we face. I'll just to give a small example of the kind. So today we have a simple technology called WhatsApp. We have a WhatsApp group on oxygen management. This WhatsApp group on oxygen management has got all the hospital nodal officers, one officer from the government as a member of that particular hospital. It has a chief minister and the other ministers also on it, and the chief secretary, and certain officials from the transport, from police. And at any given time, this whole group knows that how many cylinders are there right now in Nazareth. Nazareth Hospital, the cylinders are going down. Can we borrow from Supercare for some time because the is coming by 6 o'clock in the evening? The driver who's bringing it. This kind of a coordination that is going on today has helped us to be able to manage whatever in the last 700 cylinders we had in the last but it helped us to manage the entire process. So that's the kind of detailed planning and work and implementation that's going on at all levels. I don't want, but what I'm trying to say is that a lot of people are working very hard in time to fight this. So yes, suggestion to make. We're very happy to look at it, but this is not the time, as I said, to criticize everything that government does. We're not saying we're doing everything correct. We could be making mistakes because it's a very complicated situation we're facing. But it doesn't. I mean, I'm okay with criticism, but when you say something, it affects an officer who has been not sleeping at all. And so please be understanding of that and please support. It's only when we all work together reply to this particular question.
I just have one question. I think a few days back, this Kasur Upajba, they have sent one letter to you, one memorandum to you, asking and the government to at least help those COVID patient in hospital by the of course treatment through this MHIS card.
It's already been done. It's already been. It's from last year. It's been done. The MIH card is used for COVID expenditure since last year, not just this year. It's last year. Yeah.
Sir, I would like to bring to your notice in Jongsha village, despite testing positive, 79 people have tested positive. The video, even what step has the government taken on this?
I'm not aware about this particular development, but obviously, if that is the case, we will take and will ensure that the containment takes place. The videos have been given the power to contain zones which they feel need to be contained, and therefore, if there are people who are not implementing it and not following these orders, then necessary action will have to be taken, and we'll ensure that we take all headmen and local representatives on board and take the step.
According to this tweet, which back one good journalist friend, only fail in his duty, but is putting other villagers at risk. So, like, yeah.
No, as I said, I mean, number one, we'll verify this. Number
it's
two is this.
verified. He's there in the village.
And let the department verify it also. It's great that you're mentioning this press, but I'm saying that I can't reply to this, this thing. So I've taken a note of that, and I'll tell the necessary video as well as the DC to take necessary action on that. So health, is the questions over? Okay. Yeah, you're asking me something else. Yeah. Right. Deal, I'm sorry, which deal? Yes, yes. See, number one, that these are new substations that were constructed and were not being maintained and some not activated properly. Now, MECL is currently facing a huge financial challenge. If the current situation in MECL in terms of the cost factor that is there and the revenue that is there, and it's not, as I said, this year, it's a continuous process that's going on, then we are going to see almost close to 700 to 800 crores of loss financial year 2021-22 that MECL will face. Now, keeping all those factors in mind, MECL needs to cut down its cost. Keeping that factor in mind, these 56 or I don't remember how many substations that were there, these substations have been given out for maintenance to a public sector undertaking, which is allowed in government schemes. Now, in this, it's very important to note that the cost that would be involved in having your own people, which would require more recruitment, by the way. You'll have to recruit from the current numbers that we have, because it's not disturbing the current employment structure, but or the current substations, but these are new substations which need to be maintained. So you need to employ new people to do it. That would put huge pressure on the finances of MECL. Therefore, looking at this factor, the outsourcing would reduce to a large extent. And that is why MECL had decided to go for that. Number two, the manpower to maintain these substations would be local people. So in this entire agreement that was signed with this PSU, it was mentioned employment will have to be from the state. So local people will have to be employed to maintain this. Number three, after listening to all these aspects, so therefore the LOA has been given, but the agreement, the signing is still pending. As far as my knowledge goes, I can reconfirm that. We have told the MECL that till the entire situation and go through the entire process myself has gone into it and find out if there is any or any point that the justifications, looking at all those aspects, once the cabinet and myself as chief minister is satisfied, then we will decide on how to move forward. Till then, I've asked them to keep everything on hold. So I am examining the matter myself. Initial report, which has the points that I just explained to you just now, saying that it is purely a decision that is based on cutting the expenditure. Right now, as I said, is looking at over 700 crores of loss in this financial year, which there's no way for the government to support that. The MEC will have to figure itself out by cutting its cost and increasing its revenue. So all these factors have got, but as I said, I'm going to examine this myself. And then till then, I've asked the MECL to hold on to any kind of further movement in this particular subject. It's an independent inquiry. Yeah. Yes, we have asked the. I have asked the chief secretary to give a panel of names. Invited all the respective departments and everybody to, especially the political panel of names. I have been told, I don't have the exact date with me, but I've been told that within this week, those names will come in, because the challenge is going to be, as I said, we need a retired judge of the High Court. We also need people who are not connected to the they can give a more of an independent inquiry into the whole thing. So we need to be very careful with the selection. We don't want people who will unnecessarily uh, bring in factors that should not be brought in. And so therefore, a pure independent kind of a system is what we are hoping to bring. So we'll look at all those aspects. Depend on the names that come in. So hopefully within this week, we are expecting that the names will come in. So names within this week, we'll notify it within this week itself. I will for us. I have not seen the terms and conditions of the details, but it will not be beyond 6 months. It will be 4 to 6 months max because the issues are quite broad. We thought that since this inquiry was being put in, all the allegations that have been put against MECL. So whether it's the tendering process or state schemes, whether it is the employment issue, appointments and illegal appointments, or theft in terms of power people have given. So we thought we'll expand it into all aspects, and we'll also increase the time frame from the inception of MECL so that the real picture comes out, because MECL was formed in 2010 when the three companies, and that's the basic decision. No, right now, as I said, the letter that was given to us was regarding the independent inquiry, and I've consulted with all the cabinet colleagues in this, and we have sat down together and decided that we will be putting up in. We've done that. That's what our stand is as of now. Okay. Thanks, guys. You all have taken your shot.